Alexa is the same tier as Jingyuan, Jade, and goddamn Himeko. That is absolutely. Hey guys, MrPokke here, back with another video. And on this brilliant day of Taurus Cup, we are going to be taking a look at the most popular, most accurate JP tier list in honkaistarrail, right? I think this is the first time I actually came across a JP tier list as of version 3.5 性能 tier 表, right? Limpei actually reads kanji. This basically means their performance, their meta, and then this is gonna be this little table over here. So without further ado, let's just take a look at what a JP server has to say. This has over 588,000 views, so this is pretty much the most accurate source of information, right? So let's take a look. Okay, so the rank 1 undisputed literally transcends all tiers above every single path is gonna be global passive, right? It's gonna be global passive over here. This is the definition of the strongest, not even strongest DPS, the strongest unit according to JP, because bro literally transcends the entire tier list. I believe this might be due to global passive, right? Global passive literally can unbreak your account, fuck your morals, just put a global passive and you're gonna be having a great time within honkaistarrail. And I could not agree with this enough. Any doubters, type boom if you agree with this. Okay, my entire chat agree with this, so we're just gonna move on into the actual tier list itself over here. So we're gonna jump into tier SS. Okay, a little bit of a context. SS tier is basically the definition of tier 0, because CN likes to use 0, and then Westerners, we like to use the what do Westerners use again? Ultra rare or okay, in that case, this is the SS tier, right? So this is 毁灭巡猎. Okay, basically all the different powers I don't really need to think. This is going to be Cabin Kazlana, the only destruction SS tier, basically the only tier 0 destruction unit according to the JP survey, if I can say so myself. And we do have ourselves a grand total of 0 hunt DPS, hunt support, hunt sub DPS, whatever. Nobody from the hunt path is gonna be in SS tier. Why? Because they are wrong. The fact that this tier list does not have face out in SS just tells me that the entire JP server just filled with goddamn casuals, right? It is what it is, right? It's okay to be wrong, right? It's okay to have poor judgment, but what I cannot stand for is the fact that there's no face out over here. So it is what we're gonna move on into evolution. Okay, wait, I literally, where is Alexa? Okay, I'm gonna scroll down a little bit more, but unfortunately, it does appear that Alexa is not going to be in SS tier. It does appear that D Herda is gonna be the sole unit along the path of evolution within the SS tier. I don't think I need to explain this too much. You can just check out our this video over here and this video over here. My address can put it up over here. Basically, we just went through the biggest mistake that whole universe has ever made regarding a unit in HSR. So just check it out, and then I rest my case, right? And then we do have ourselves Remembrance with the SS tier Mimi as well as Hyacinth. Wait, is there any unit behind? Okay, no, that's pretty much it, right? Okay, I think this is quite okay, especially for Mimi. I think Mimi is just that universal, being a free unit at E6, synergizes with almost everyone in their mounts at this point, unless your name is Super or DOT. Mimi is very, very deserving of the Remembrance here. And Hyacinth, whether you like her with casuals or you don't like her with casuals, she's just that comfortable for a sustain. Who the hell is using Hui Hui in 2025? So it is what it is. I think these two, at least for the Remembrance path, is gonna be quite nice, because other than these, it's gonna be what? Eglea? Casual is already tier -0, like to infinity and beyond. So maybe Evernight might change something, but until that day actually happens, we're just gonna take a look at how that happens, right? Nihility. It appears that the only Nihility SS tier is going to be the, I'm assuming, reworked Silver Wolf. Now, okay, I just realized that JP has a very interesting format of labeling a tier list, which is they don't label it by their roles like a DPS, support, and sustain. It is strictly by their paths. So in a JP tier list opinion, it does appear that no Nihility DPS, be it if you're Acheron or if you're gonna be DOT, is gonna be staying in the same caliber compared to Silver, which begs to question, where the hell is Cypher, man? Okay, I guess Cypher just doesn't exist then. Maybe the entirety of JP server just skip Cypher. So we're just gonna be going ahead with the Sylph in this SS placement for the only. Okay, all this concern, I don't think Sylph is a bad unit. Right, built-in 81% defense reduction if you have Cypher's S1. I think her flexibility is very high, but it's just that a lot of situation when it comes to like you're comparing damage amplification for Cypher, right? When it comes to damage amplification, I think she's just a little bit falls a little bit flat, especially if you don't get an E1 Silverwolf. The ultimate rotation can feel a little bit stiff. But that being said, I think the rework is very nice. And if you're gonna be running on A-Box Shadows, and if you can stack on defense reduction, she's still gonna be quite good. But I think Cypher honestly deserves to be here, even though she's not that popular because she had the Curse of Boot Hill, and we didn't really get her in a very nice banner placement. I think Cypher is still very strong for Nihility. Right? If they don't want to place Acron and they don't want to place like DOT units for Nihility class as an SS tier, I think it's okay because at the end of the day, DPS always is a little bit more questionable. Whereas you are literally comparing this path of Nihility where you have both supports and DPS. Whereas like these paths, they always have like, this is like pure DPS themselves. So I think final be an SS tier here is gonna be a little bit more manageable. Just Hunt is gonna be a rumor. Okay, Harmony. How many Harmony SS are there? Oh, okay. So the top 3 Harmony according to the JP server is gonna be Teep, Sunday, and Bubbin. Which means that units like Ranmei being with Super Break, Fuke, Spargo with the R, they are no longer relevant, right? They are no longer relevant according to the JP server. And on the same note, Preservation and Abundance, they're basically gone, so we're gonna talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, pretty much at this point, the only undisputed triple SS tier in the Harmony category, because we are gonna be playing the game of Honkai support rail, is gonna be Teep, Sunday, and Bubbin. Now, with everything considered, right? I think it's pretty fair. I do think this list is pretty fair. I might even consider putting Sunday around a smidge bit higher than Robin. But I think Sunday and Teep, they are like a little bit closer. Like if they're all assets, I think they're all really good, right? They're all really good. Very nice, especially if you go for all of their vertical investments. Sunday doesn't really care about the E1 as important compared to Teep as well as Robin. But within the same lines, Sunday is a little bit closer to Teep. And then Robin is like a little bit lower compared to Sunday. Mainly just because if you're gonna be talking about like a energy regenerate environment, you are basically running Robin with either Hunt DPS, which is like your facial, which people don't know how to use Hunt anymore, so it is what it is. Or if you're gonna be running her with like your D Herda, right? Maybe you run her with a Nexa, if you're running her with like Orgilea, she still has quite a bit of a use case. It's just that the same lines of those DPS just don't really match up as much compared to these two supports over here. So not really a Robin situation. It's just that I think that the Harmony support, the entire archetype and the team form as a whole, is just a little bit stronger compared to Bubbin. And it is just with great shame that she couldn't synergize with the undisputed to infinity and beyond Castorice, right? So I think that might be a little, at least for me personally, I think that's why Robin will be a little bit lower. But it doesn't really discount the fact that she's still absolutely her, especially if you're a elitist, if you're going for like your 0 cycles, fastest action value advance, A-Box Shadows, Banner, whatever. 100% action value advance for 3 different units is still gonna be absolutely busted. So I think this SS tier is pretty okay. Sparkle, I don't think she's gonna be coming close with Sunday, even though we have Archer. Ranmei, Super Break as a whole, unless Super Break makes a comeback. The moment Super Break makes a comeback, then we can potentially see like a resurgence of Ranmei again. But if that is not gonna happen, then I think this list for Harmony is still relatively okay. And then Preservation and Abundance, they are just unfortunately not gonna having a single SS. Okay, and all this considered, if we want to talk about Abundance as like a healer in general, I'll just put Hyacinth over here, right? Because let's just be real, Hue and Hyang, they are not in the same tier. I don't give a fuck what you say, unless you're putting for like an E1 or E1 Hue to match your like sustain capabilities. They're just not in the same tier, right? So these two is okay. Maybe in the future when Preservation Dunhing comes out, we could see a bigger pivot into the Preservation class for this category, because like I mentioned, for HSR, they like to rotate the they like to rotate the endgame environment, either with like a preference towards your Preservation sustain or your Abundance sustain, right? Currently right now is a lot more focused with like your Abundance, right? A lot of HP generation. But by the next batch of Preservation, right? The next batch of endgame, maybe this class might see a rise up. So I'm guessing E2 Dale, or the brand new Dale, is gonna be coming up into a very high caliber, which may or may not put Aventuring himself back up again for the entire class of Preservation. So that is pretty much it for the SS tier in JP. And with that, we're gonna go on into the S tier. S tier. Ooh, S tier. Alright, so this is the S tier, right? This is the S tier. So we have ourselves for Destruction, Saber, and My Day. in the S tier for the destruction units. And then this is gonna be Archer as the only Han DPS in the S tier. Now, there's a note over here because I do read kanji, right? Because I am a weeaboo, right? Not a weeaboo. You have to have Sparkle, right? You have to have Hanabi. You have to have Huahuo, right? If you do not have Sparkle, bro, is not gonna be in this goddamn list, which I think is gonna be completely fucking valid, right? It is what it is. But on the same vein, you could also argue a similar sentiment for a lot of these other DPSs, like removing their best. So, for example, if you're going to be running Saber without Sunday, or if you're going to be running Mighty without Sunday, or if you're going to be running... okay, Final is a little bit more universal, but these two, if you don't really have Sunday, I believe the performance is definitely going to be dropping off a little bit higher, right? So, it is what it is. Okay, but Destruction class, I'm honestly a little bit surprised that My Day is in the same tier with Saber over here. But that being said, to be completely transparent, I have not really played with My Day for a while. I don't even remember the last time I actually played with My Day, aside from running him in my free-to-play Bob account. And even though I ran My Day on my free-to-play Bob account, I just eventually just benched him. So maybe My Day is insane, right? I just haven't really seen his performance that much because let's just be real, Aventuring right now has 40% imaginary rest. Automatron in the first half also has an imaginary rest. And if My Day is going to be spamming his skills, it's going to trigger Automatron's the little mode, sanction mode. So it's a little bit pain in the ass. But yeah, maybe he is in the same tier. I'm a little bit more doubtful, but perhaps one day it's gonna shine, right? Archer, absolutely, right? Absolutely. I think this is gonna be great. In fact, I might even consider placing Archer in SS here for now, right? For now, maybe in the future when the buffs and the shield environment goes away and we pivot way back into like the evolution-based content again, I think Archer can take a step back. But for now, Archer is really, really fucking strong, right? Definitely comparable towards this server. So that's gonna be that for our Han. Wait. Oh, Anexa is. Oh. Ooh. JP does not like Anexa. JP really, really does not like Anexa. Because it turns out that Anexa is not even in the same tier as My Day, bro. God damn. Again, my sentiments for Anexa has been very, very clear for the past 1 week. So check out those 2 videos. But I rest my case. I'll let you guys to talk about it yourselves. Unfortunately, it turns out that Aglaia just kind of fell off over here. Me personally, I think that's Slender, right? Also, first of all, speaking of Slender, have you guys seen this art? God damn. Okay, in any case, yeah, I think Aglaia's sort of I think she's still really, really good, right? If you're going to be running her in this MOC, I think she's 100% going to be able to clear with no issue whatsoever. So placing Anexa, not Anexa, Aglaia at like, bro, if Aglaia is not A, that would be very, very concerning. But it turns out that, yeah, both Aglaia and Anexa, they are not going to be worthy of the S tier. Literally worse than My Day, by the way, in this contrast. Because we're not even comparing DPS to DPS. We're comparing path to paths, right? And like, me personally, I think that's a little bit questionable because I really, really like Aglaia and I really, really like Anexa. But let's move on into the nihility class. We do have ourselves the triple nihility that is going to be Hyacinth into Kafka into Meow Meow. So Meow Meow is gonna be the same tier. I'm guessing this is a must-have. You 必须 must-have Hyacinth. And then this is... Okay, luckily for me, because your streamer understands Japanese. So what this means for Hyacinth is that you want to be a little bit more wary because currently she is getting a shield corrector buffs, right? Which is, you know, absolutely fair because for both A-Box Shadows as well as Memory of Chaos and even in like Pure Fiction, we are having a lot of DOT shields. So Hyacinth's performance is drastically elevated, right? Unlike my GOAT Anexa, after his shield environment goes away, boom, he is still him, right? So just keep it a little bit in mind over here. And it does in fact turn out, as of right now, in JP server's opinion, Acheron is below DOT. I think in a vacuum, you could argue that to be the case. Because right now, we do have a DOT environment, right? Okay, let's just be fair. Right now is a DOT environment, which means DOT right now is gonna be performing exceptionally well, right? Because we want to take it as of where it is, as of where it stands. But in the future, when this thing goes away, I'm guessing when JP updates the tier list, we could see Acheron coming back up a little bit higher away once all of these things go, right? But as of where it stands, I think DOT is performing really, really, really well. Potentially even like, okay, cost to cost, okay? Cost to cost, I think there's a potential that DOT is actually going to be better than Aircron as of this current moment. But very important thing to know is just right now, we do have the DOT shields, so it is what it is. And Aircron is just unfortunately not going to make use of, for example, MOC debuff is basically skill damage as well as burn DOT. And Aircron really, really wants outs as well as stacks. So DOT is just going to having a little bit more of a benefit compared to Miss Aircron, right? So it is what it is. Cypher, I think she's just a little bit too underutilized. Maybe too many people skipped her in the JP. So I believe she needs to go above you. I really, really like the damage application on Cypher. But also, to be fair, I don't think players need Cypher because at the end of the day, you were basically stuck in a rock and a hard place, right? You are either going to be putting Cypher between the fake Kodab as well as Finon, and I think a lot of people put Finon, and if you do want to pull for Cypher, then it is what it is, right? And then before Cypher, it was a highest thing, which is Castorice, but just not sustained. So very, very unfortunate, better timing. It is what it is. Okay, so for S tier Harmony, it turns out that Runmei is going to be in a higher tier compared to Fuke. This means no ingredients. Okay, as the Japanese speaker like myself, this literally means free. Runmei is a free unit. In fact, let me hear you let me hear you guys up with this real quick. That's also a free light code, by the way. This is in fact a free light code. So I believe Runmei truly is one of, if not the best free unit we have ever seen within the HSR, right? Absolutely exceptional. So for a free unit like Runmei, as well as her signature light code, am I joking? I don't know. I think this is gonna be fair, right? Why they place her above Fuke? I think my best deduction is that they are no longer Runmei's capabilities as a support for Break anymore. Because I think to JP server, as well, I think we can see from our data from ourselves, right? Like the EN server, CN server, all kind of stuff. Super Break is just gonna be having quite a rough patch. But the fortunate thing for Runmei is that Bro can abandon ship. Runmei is like a rat, right? It's like the rat that like changes side from the enemy lines, right? Like, oh my god, all of a sudden, like, Runmei was team Super Break, but then like the moment shit goes down and Super Break is getting cooked, he's like, nah, I'm out, adios, fuck you guys. And then she just bounced, and then she just let Firefly, she let Rabba, she let Fuke just die in their little sad little building, burn in the building, and then but Runmei can jump ship, jump building, change sides, and pivot back as a generalized support, right? You can use Runmei with Finon, you can use Runmei with Castorice, you can use Runmei with pretty much anyone in their mounts because res pen as well as damage amplification and witness rate efficiency, they are still relatively universal buffs, which we have seen ever since version 1 upon the release, right? So I think that's the main reason why she's going to be having a higher placement than Fuke. Not because of her role as a break support is better than Fuke, right? She's not a better support because they're both essentially very, very good for break. It's just that outside of break, right, you can still use her as like a secondary side grade to a lot of these units we have right now for our current endgame content team. Right? So that's pretty much it. Also, she's free, right? And then for our abundance and preservation sustains, when the Adventure is going to be around the same tier, I think this is pretty fair, right? This list is pretty fair, at least for the sustain. So, and honestly, for both the sustains, there's not too much to discuss. I don't think Huan is that bad, and I don't think Adventure is that bad as well. I can foresee a world, like I mentioned just now, where Adventure can actually go all the way back up to the top again if they're gonna be making this a preservation-based environment when preservation deal comes around. But when that happens, I think this is pretty fair. Let's go on into, I believe this will be the war category, right? Because this is gonna be the A tier. The A tier. Without further ado. Damn. All right. So this is the war zone. This is the war zone. So first things first, right? This is wrong. That's it. This is the only statement I would say it's definitively wrong. Face out is nothing less than SS. Go fuck yourselves if you disagree otherwise because you're goddamn casual. So that's everything else is I'm up for debate, right? Everything else I think we can all, as the council of HSR elitists, right? We can put up for debate. But face out not being SS is absolutely not up for debate. So if you guys disagree, you're just literally just wrong, right? Okay, let's go about our destruction class first. We do have ourselves I'm guessing this is a must-have with Sunday. I believe this is the kanji for Sunday. Oh, it's Hyakya. Oh, my bad. It's Hyakya. Yeah, I misread. Okay, wait. Okay. My Japanese brain is telling me Jing Liu's translation is she needs Hia Hia, and Aglaia needs Sunday and Huan Huan or Iwan. Alright, that is basically my Japanese brain working. I'm absolutely right. Okay, let's go on over here for Jing Liu, Yun Li, and Blade. Now, me personally, I would say that Hyacinth is really important for both Jing Liu and Blade. Because getting that Hyacinth as one, right? For Blade, that's one whole ass deck. Literally changes everything, right? Because like Blade's E6 goes from 5 to 4. So the power of that one stack can change a lot. So I would say that for Blade himself, I think his reliance not on Hyacinth specifically, but the S1, very important. And then Jing Liu, I think for a similar principle, if you get that, it helps you stack on the thingies, which gives you the extra little crescent moon thingy, which means you can get access to a little bit more of the defense reduction damage. So when you pair up with like Sunday, I'm really assuming you're going to be getting 100% energy, 100% ultimate after with Jing Liu, right? That is going to be both very important. So for these two units, if you want to run them, I will also highly recommend Sunday, right? I think a performance without Sunday, like for example, if you use Bronya, I think it's still okay. Like for example, if you have E6 Bronya and above last 2 turns, I think it's still not that bad, right? Maybe if you run around RMC, it could still be okay, but RMC's action value is going to be a lot slower because Jing Liu and Blade, they both function very well on 133, 134, right? The classic DPS duo combo which you run with Sunday and Bronya. It's just that Sunday, but the fact that Sunday's buffs last so many turns, especially for Blade with his follow-up attacks and Jing Liu with his ultimate into like extra, these two really oh, and the energy regeneration, right? Really nice. Crit rate buff for Blade is also quite nice. Jing Liu really not that much, but I think these two having Sunday without Sunday is a big diff. And then whether or not you have Teep, I think Teep's role might not be that crazy. You could run like a Sunday Runmei and Hyacinth, or like a Sunday. Yeah, I think Runmei is the best alternative. Yeah, Runmei is the best alternative. Maybe you could try running a I was thinking buffing for action very advanced, and then you just don't give a fuck about the attack buffs. Rest in peace, attack buffing Jing Liu. It is what it is. Back in those days, you could run buffing with Jing Liu, right? But yeah, I don't think that's gonna be too viable. So I think the alternative to Teep is basically Runmei, because rare spam with defense and Witness Brave Agency. But Witness Brave Agency for Blade is quite bad, because you actually don't really want him to break the enemy and the delay, because you want Blade to get hit, right? So these two being the same tier as I'm guessing Yun Li. Yun Li as a unit, it's really dependent on the environment though. Because if the enemy just don't hit you on Yun Li, her performance gets a lot more sus. Whereas if the enemies hit you a lot, every single additional hit is additional energy, additional counters, additional damage, additional enhanced ultimates. So if you are going to go up against enemies, for example, like Decaying Shadows, or like if you're gonna be going up against like what's an enemy that don't really hit you? True Sting does have the bugs which hit you quite a bit. I guess Kafka is also quite good. Oh right, Break Puppets. Yeah, Break Puppets is really bad. Yeah. But to be fair, Break is like, it's not even weak to physical anyways. So yeah, I think most bosses that are weak to physical, they actually heal quite a bit, right? Hulace, Meme, is it Meme to physical? Okay, essentially TLDR, if your enemies don't hit you as much as Yun Li, you can't really run her that much. So very prone to your environmental changes. So I think this A tier for destruction is okay. This is not that bad. This is okay. I would say Jing Liu and Blade though, with their best in store team, I don't think they're that far off from My Day. But the thing is, I don't think My Day is as strong as Saber. Or maybe I'm just biased to Saber. So I think Jing Liu, My Day, and Blade, they are all around the same category, because they are literally playing the exact same. You run Sunday, Teep, and Hyacinth, and then they're just doing the exact same thing. Except for Jing Liu and Blade, you have a little bit more control, and My Day is just let him do whatever the fuck you want to do, right? So that is pretty much it. Phase out, I already discussed, she's supposed to be tier SS. Okay, this list over here. Nexa is the same tier as Jing Yuan, Jade, and goddamn Himeko. That is absolutely fucking insane, by the way. That is, bro, this is like the equivalent of Pridewind releasing a tier list, saying shit like Firefly is tier 0 and Rabba is tier 3 and Boot Hill is tier 3. That is like the equivalent of war where we're going at this point, because I think this is probably, okay, all jokes aside for phase out and everything, right? This is like, it's a catastrophic, bro, it's a enigmata. Bro, this is the equivalent of an Aeon. Bro, this list, this A list for Erudition was literally gazed upon by Enigmata for 10 years. That is like the definition of A. Okay, for Jing Yuan, is actually okay. I think Jingyuan in 8 is okay. Jade and Himeko, no way in goddamn, no. There's absolutely no way these two are gonna be A tier. And Alexa, I'm not even gonna fucking lie. Bro needs to go here, right? Bro needs to go here, right? If we're gonna be dropping bro to be around the same tier as Herda, fine. Right? Maybe he is worse, maybe he's better, whatever, but he at least needs to be in the same tier as the Herda. So that is on me. I think Jingyuan in 8 is still okay, but Himeko and Jade is just a little bit way too high. So these two definitely need to go down. I'll leave it once again. I'm not gonna touch on this too much. I just think that this list next time being the same tier as Himeko is legitimately fucking crazy, right? So anyways, we're gonna now absolutely move on. Aglaia, this over here needs a Sunday and all the kind of stuff. E2, E-out, whatever it's gonna be. Okay, Aglaia is in the same tier as Alexa. I personally think Aglaia can move up to this tier, right? I think Aglaia can move up to this tier to each their own. And then Alexa, or rather, Acheron is gonna be the same tier as Black Swan as well as Fuke. I think Fuke in 8 is okay, all right? Oh, wait, I just realized that technically, if you want to run Fuke with Acheron, you technically could. Because if you give the buff to Teep's follow-up attacks could do like a couple of defense break. So if you really wanted to, you could. I remember seeing this Acheron Fuke team way back in those days. Like, I think it was like I think on Nicador's patch back then, it was actually possible, right? So if you really run it, you could, even though it's probably not gonna be that recommended. And then for Black Swan, wait, I'm challenging my Japanese brain. No for Acheron needs Idolence. No for Black Swan needs Hysolence. And there it is, right? So that's gonna be my Japanese brain over here. You're absolutely welcome because I speak Japanese. Yeah, so basically Black Swan. Okay, the thing I'm a little bit skeptical for Black Swan, because for the entire time we're going to be running Hysolence for the past 3 weeks, right? Is that if the next DOT update comes in version 4, I'm gonna be just assuming at this point DOT is like a very, very side-graded class as a whole, right? I'm afraid that the next DOT unit will replace Black Swan. So it's either that happens or Black Swan gets a buff. So whichever one of these two happens, it will determine if Black Swan can even stay in DOT. I'll feel really fucking bad if Black Swan gets replaced. So hopefully Black Swan does get a buff. So for example, the skill, it needs to hit everything. The Arcana, it needs to never get cleansed. It's the uncleansable Arcana, right? The ultimate lasts for 2 turns, right? I think these will be really, really nice about the Black Swan because it's not like DOT is absurdly broken anyways, right? So that is pretty much it. Acheron, apparently you need Idolence. You need to have Idolence on Acheron. If you have no Idolence, bro, it's gonna be a B tier unit, right? So that's pretty much it. Sparkle and Bronya over here, I personally think Sparkle can go up a tier. Strictly because of the involvement with Archer nowadays, and Archer is going to be performing exceptionally well. If Archer falls off, then Sparkle as well can also fall, right? But until that happens, you know what? I think Bronya can also go up here. Why? Because of this motherfucker over here, right? So I think both Bronya and Sparkle can be in the S tier over here. It's either that or we just drop Rami a little bit lower, because I don't think it makes too much sense that these two are not performing that well, despite the fact that, you know, Sparkle can be used with Archer, Sparkle can be used with Final, Bronya can be used with Final. Final being SS doesn't really make too much sense that these two are going to be in the A team, right? So because we always compare not just support as in a vacuum, but also their best in slot team archetype in the current standing, right? So these two can go on to S, that's pretty much it. No preservation units because Mihoyo hates preservation, and Lingsha and Luocha in the same tier. Goddamn. If Gallagher was here, I think they would literally just place Gallagher right here. Straight up. Because Lingsha is just a little bit skill point heavy. Just a smidge bit skill point heavy. And Gallagher is a free unit. Opportunity cost to opportunity cost, right? If you put for Lingsha, right, even though she deals ridiculous damage, she's very, very fun. At the end of the day, you are spending the same amount of Stellar Jades for a copy of Lingsha versus a copy of Teep. Or a copy of like of an Idolin. Right, so cost to cost wise, if I can save money, if I can save Stellar Jades and just use he is him, Mr. 13-year-old himself, it is what it is. Also, Luocha being the same tier here is absolutely fucking insane, right? So with that, we are gonna go on into the final tier. I believe this is the final tier. The Forgotten Ones. The Forgotten Ones. Firefly, Boot Hill, Rapper. They are all forgotten. Alongside with HMC over here. Truly a sad day. And then we have Dale, Kalala, Topaz. Rachel being higher than Scylla is a goddamn crime, by the way. Switch my girl up. She is inevitable. There's a reason why Scylla did not get buffed, and everyone else did. Like Kafka did, so bring bro up, right? And that Argenti is in the same tier as Rapper. This list was approved by Sarah himself, by the way. Right? I think this is a little bit silly, right? I think this is a little bit, we can bump bro down a smidge bit, like all the way back down to D tier. But that is gonna be what it is. HMC. Okay, to be fair, because they did rank the entire break category as a whole on B tier, I think HMC being tied to the break team is okay, right? If they bump break up, we can bump HMC up, because you want to run a sustainers break, or with your HMC you kind of just need to run bro. I just have no idea how Himiko is like a tier above Argenti, so we probably want to jump it down a little bit. Full strength, honestly, the sustain is very, very nice. I will put full strength here. I will legitimately put Fujian here, because even though she is like a standard unit, even though she is like, haven't seen a lot of it for like a very, very long time, but her comfort, right, the one-shot preventions, the amount of damage reduction and everything, I think she is a very, 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 very nice unit to have. Whether we are talking about like endgame content or even as you, she is gonna just don't get a disruption blessing and then she's gonna be good to go. Right? E2 deal, we literally just did a first try 0 cycle. Still waiting for my editor. Yo, wait, pause, editor. Iru? Please remind whoever is working on the E2 deal 0 cycle to cook that shit up, okay? Okay, thank you so much, right? Okay, anyways, we literally got ourselves the E2 deal on our first try. First try 0 cycle E2 deal, right? And then okay, unfortunately, if I'm gonna play E0 deal, it's gonna be a little bit rough. That's you, but you tell yourself, yeah, tell yourself that, okay, but you still need to make the Tazuna guide, right? You still need to make the Tazuna guide, where you still need to make the CM video, and you still need to prepare. Okay, in any case, yep, there's no way God's Green of deal is gonna be the same tier as the ratio. So bring E2 deal all the way up here if you have E2. If you don't have E2 deal, then why even playing this game, right? You goddamn casual, right? Bring bro up to E2. Physical Trailblazer being the same goddamn tier as Scylla is a little bit silly, right? Also, Yanqing 0 cycle come to a cinema. One day we'll get ourselves the Yanqing 0 cycle. All these other units, and nobody really cares about them anymore. So with that, I think we have come to the end of our first ever look at the JP version 3.5 性能 tier 表, or whatever you pronounce this in JP, right? So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Word of the day is going to be 性能. I'm not even sure if you guys even typed in the comment section, right? But have fun trying to type that. Join Twitch, join YouTube, join Discord, join Twitter, join Twitter, join our page for all of our anime reviews. Use code for 10% off gamer subs. Today's flavor is gonna be pineapple. All the best for Gacha Pools. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.